Hi guys, welcome to Simply Scuba. Here we have the IST Ceramic Line Cutter. So this is very different from the kind of traditional idea of a line cutter. Obviously in design it's very similar, but they've changed one little thing and that's made a big difference, and obviously that is the cutting blade is made out of ceramic instead of steel. So first of all, let's take a really quick look. Okay, so let's get 60 seconds on the clock. Okay, so we're looking at the IST Ceramic Line Cutter. So this is kind of the way that a lot of dive knives and cutting devices are going. They're heading more down the line cutter route because they're a lot safer. You're less likely to damage yourself or your equipment because they're effectively cutting edge is protected by the design of the line cutter, so you're not going to damage yourself or your gear. But one of the main downsides is that the cutting edges on most line cutters are made from a surgical grade steel, which does rust fairly regularly or sort of readily if it's exposed to seawater and not dried thoroughly between dives. So what IST have done is they've used ceramic, which does create a very sharp cutting edge, but of course it is corrosion resistant, so you never have to worry about it rusting. So let's take a much more in-depth, closer look at the line cutter. Okay, so let's take a closer look. So this is how it arrives. It comes in a box. There is some wording on the background which basically goes over the features of the line cutter. Inside you get the line cutter and a bit of excessive packaging for a line cutter, to be honest. And then this is what you get. So the line cutter, it comes in this sort of cordura sheath, and this has a few different mounting options. So you can either put it sort of vertically upright, or you can thread it sort of along, so it's a bit more horizontal. So depending on whether you want it on a watch strap or so you want it on a waistband, you can sort of mount it where you want it to. Getting the sheath out, also getting the line cutter out, you've got a section of Velcro that's holding that in position pretty well, and lift on that tab, that becomes a bit of a handle for you. You've got a sort of finger loop so that you can control the device a bit better, and as you can see, it's pretty bright in this kind of orange and day glow yellow, but what makes this really different from other line cutters is that instead of a sort of surgical grade steel sort of cutting blade, you have two ceramic cutting edges. Now, if you've ever broken a ceramic plate, you know it gets really sharp edges, and this is basically the product of that. And it's quite hard. You can just kind of get a finger in to sort of touch the blade, but you've got to really mean to. But as you get like a line, a bit of fishing line, and even a sort of fairly thick piece of rope, that's probably about 8 mil to a centimeter thick. As soon as it gets in there, it's starting to get pressed against that cutting edge. As you start to pull it sort of down, it's really sandwiching it down and applying pressure and forcing it against that cutting edge, so you can cut through things really effectively. And because you've got two, if one edge starts to dull, then you've always got the other one. You do have two sort of bolts and sort of nuts and bolts that you can unscrew, which almost suggests that you can get replacement blades. I've never seen them, but at least you can sort of disassemble it. But what's great about that is compared to the stainless steel blades, they do rust over time, especially if you don't clean them in between dives. Down on the inside of the knife itself, where you can't see, where water just tends to sort of live. If you don't dry that out properly, it can sort of rust from the inside out. But on ceramic can't rust, so you never have to worry about that. Very light, it's got a decent size to it. Of course, it's blunt, so you're less likely to sort of damage yourself or your equipment. And yeah, you can stow it away very quickly and easily. So yeah, let's see who the ceramic line cutter is for. So who is the ceramic line cutter for? So line cutters are usually seen more and more on sort of technical divers, but we're starting to see them a lot more on recreational divers because they're actually a more practical tool for what we use whilst scuba diving. Unless you're routinely cutting through thick line and ghost gear, then you should really sort of move on to a proper serrated dive knife. But if you're just cutting through the odd fish fishing line, something just to free yourself from an entanglement, this is the way most of the diving community is going. They're getting at least one of these so that they can always reach it and they can just sort of dispatch sort of whatever fishing line it is. The ceramic is very new. It's more designed for, sort of corrosion resistance. You don't have to worry about sort of washing and drying your gear quite as thoroughly. So a bit more for the lazier diver who doesn't want to worry about a rusty dive knife if they forget to sort of wash and dry it. But yeah, any scuba diver from recreational all the way up to tech, they're going to like the IST Ceramic Line Cutter. Okay, so that's the IST Ceramic Line Cutter. It's a very practical device for cutting through sort of a fair amount of what you'll be expected to see on recreational diving, but without that sort of complication of the sort of a rusting blade. Now, if you make dive equipment and you want us at Simply Scuba to make one of these videos for your products, then all you have to do is basically send a sample to us at the address that's listed in the description below. And of course, if you're a buyer, if you're looking to buy a piece of diving equipment, but you're in kind of two minds, you're not quite sure whether you want to buy it or whether it's even for you, and you want this kind of video made for it, then just ask the supplier, see if they can send the boys and girls at Simply Scuba a sample so that we can do this type of video for that product, and that way you're a little bit more informed. As always, thank you for watching and safe diving. We are an online dive store serving the UK and the world for all your diving equipment needs. So why not visit us at simplyscuba.com or click the box on your screen.